Ariel Helwani in Philadelphia, gearing up for UFC 133 alongside UFC President Dana White. And Dana, I know you've done a lot of interviews. You're probably tired, and I was wondering if we can start off. If you could just show me that mosh pit move that you had, the sort of ring around the rosy, because it was kind of hard. Elliot did a good job capturing it, but it was sort of up and down. So why don't you show that off for us?
I'd love to get you in there.
I was impressed, by the way, for someone of your stature to be in a mosh pit like that.
Why not? I think all the stature stuff is bull. You know, you can go out and have fun, you know, no different than any other person. Go out, have fun. You can swear, you know, you can do all these things. You don't have to act one way off camera and one way on camera. I am who I am, period. You know, and I like Rage Against the Machine, and my tickets got screwed up, so I ended up in general admission, and you know, it was fun. There was a lot of cool people there, and it was a really cool atmosphere and a good vibe, and I loved it. I had a blast.
Then you had all the sweaty guys kissing you on your bald head. That must have been fun too.
We had some. When it was funny because when you're going around in the pit, as I was going around, there'd be people on the outside going, "Holy no way!" And guys were coming in and taking shots at me. Some guys were grabbing me by the neck, and you know, but it was fun. Everybody was cool, and it was a really good time.
All right, so let's talk about UFC 133. How surreal, in a sense, is it for you to see Tito back here just 3 weeks later, riding this high? And, you know, let's be honest, throughout his career, a bit of a polarizing figure. And now he's like this fan favorite, this babyface character, sort of the underdog. Is that weird for you?
Yeah, no, it's not surreal. I'm honestly happy for him. I think that, you know, he's admitted that he's made lots of bad decisions in his career. And believe me, I know firsthand on how many he's made. And the fact that he came in to what looked like was going to be an execution, like he was walking into his execution for that fight, and he ends up beating, you know, the number 7 ranked guy in the light heavyweight division, the way that he did too. He didn't just go out and squeak out a win. He drops him and then submits him. You know, people were genuinely happy for Tito. I think that he pulled that off, me included, and then for him to come back and step up and take this fight with Rashad right after it, I think earned Tito a lot of respect from the fans. And Tito's always been, you know, a tough guy who's had the tools. He just hasn't made the right decisions. I think he made the right decision in this one.
And the talk from the UFC is that Tito is back, so to speak. Do you buy that?
Well, we'll find out Saturday. You know, he's definitely, you know, the fact that he pulled off that win against Bader, and now he's going to fight Rashad. If he pulls off a win against Rashad on Saturday, he's definitely back.
Prior to 132, you were talking about old Tito stuff, you know, some friction again. Has there been any friction leading up to this fight?
None. We haven't had any of this one. I mean, we were butting heads at the press conference at the last fight when he fought Bader, you know. But there's always, you know, listen, Tito and I have known each other for 13 years or whatever it is, and have basically been in business together for 13 years. And we're always going to have our moments. Tito and I are never going to, it's never going to be like, you know, like me and Chuck. Chuck and I think, have had maybe one argument in 13 years. Tito and I have had a million. It's never not going to be that way, but it doesn't mean that I can't be happy for the guy and you know, to see him on this, I don't know what you'll call it right now, but we'll see on Saturday, but I'm happy for him.
You've talked in the past that you didn't really agree with some of the decisions that Rashad Evans made in his career. How much momentum do you think he's lost since the Rampage win?
A lot. You know, anytime you sit out for a year and a half, especially coming off the show, as big as that show was, going into the fight and winning the fight against Rampage, and then deciding to sit out and wait for a guy who blew his knee out and had to go through surgery, then the recovery and everything. I thought it was insane at the time, and I told him, and I was very, you know, vocal about it. I wasn't shy about it. I told the media and everybody else what I felt, and now he's been through this string of bad luck. I mean, he going into the Shogun fight, he gets injured. Then his next 2 opponents get injured, and, you know, I think he's really pumped that Tito stepped up and took this fight too.
And let's be clear, if Rashad wins, he's next in line for a title shot. If Tito wins, it's kind of a wait and see, and it depends on how he wins, right?
Yeah, I think it would be tough to say that if Tito comes in and beats Rashad, that he's automatically the #1 contender in that division. But let me tell you what, if Tito Ortiz goes out and beats Rashad Evans, even remotely close to the way that he beat Bader, it'd be tough to say that Tito's not in the top 4.
Who is more at stake on Saturday night, Vitor Belfort or Akiyama, considering the fact that Belfort's coming off the loss to Anderson, Akiyama 2 straight losses?
I don't know. I don't know if I could say who's got the one thing I can say. I love this fight as far as the style goes. Akiyama's awesome. He's won fight of the night 3 times in a row, and the reason is because this guy comes out and he gets in your face and he fights. And Vitor has that thing where sometimes he freezes. He goes out there and stands, and it's like a stare off. Sometimes he won't do that with Akiyama. Akiyama's going to be in his face, going after him the whole time, and Vitor's going to have to use those hands that we all know he can use.
Last time we talked in your hotel room in New York, you said that you don't get involved much in the Strikeforce day-to-day business. And by the way, thanks for dinner that night in your hotel. But we do have some Strikeforce questions to ask, if you don't mind. The Golden Glory situation. Are you able to at least rectify or explain why Alistair and then the 3 other members of the team were released over the last week?
Right. Well, if you do your history lesson and you go back and look, the last time we did business with the Golden Glory team was semi-shilt. That's how long ago it was that we did business with Golden Glory. And the reason for that is, and the reason for what happened a few days ago, is the way that they do business is that you can't pay the fighters. You have to pay the Golden Glory guys. I have a great relationship with Boss Boone. I see him. He's a nice guy. We just don't do business that way. We don't pay managers. We pay fighters. And whatever the relationship is with them is great. And if the relationship is that great between them and the fighters, then that's then perfect. We pay the fighters and the fighters pay you guys. But that's not how they operate. They refuse to do it, and we can't do business like that.
So other fighters get the checks themselves. Basically, they want to receive the check and then give the check or the money to their fighters. Is that basically it?
That's the way it works. No, here in America, we fall under the rules and regulations of the Athletic Commission. And what happens is, before a fight, the money goes into an account for the purses, and the commission writes the checks. And the commission writes the checks to the fighters. And then the fighters pay the managers or their trainers or whoever else they got to pay. It's the fighters' money. It's not the manager's money. And that's how they absolutely refuse to operate that way.
UFC 131, John Olaf Einemo won Fight of the Night, highly decorated grappler. He's a Golden Glory fighter. Why did you sign him if he was a Golden Glory fighter, and why did things change between now and then? Because
what happened was they agreed to do the deal that way. But then when they got here, it wasn't, they were very unhappy with the situation and that the fighter had to be paid instead of them, which they knew that was the deal. They always know that's the deal, but they refused to do it.
Does that mean no more Golden Glory fighters in Zuffa unless they change their policy?
Yeah. Yeah, if they listen, you can get away with that stuff in Japan and all these other places they fight. Not here. We're not gonna be in a situation where we write a check and give it to anybody other than the guy who earned it. Never gonna happen. And all the haters out there that fucking the Golden Glory and the Fedor and all this other bull. You know what I mean? Listen, it's about the fighters. The fighters get paid. Managers do not. Fighters pay managers. I don't.
And just to be clear as well, Sergey Kharitonov is a Golden Glory fighter, but he wasn't released. Why not?
Yeah, well, he's fighting in the tournament, and as of right now, that's the way it's being done. He'll receive his check.
Oh, really?
Yes, he will receive his check.
How did he get around that?
He didn't. I mean, it's the same thing with Einemo. Einemo, we got that deal done, and then they came over here, and it was a big headache when they came. And it was a big ordeal.
And Alistair didn't want to do that because he was still in the tournament too.
Doesn't matter what Alistair wants to do. It's what Golden Glory wants to do. That's their deal.
You mentioned your...
So you might want to interview them and ask them about that.
I would love to. They haven't wanted to talk.
Thinks, I lie and I'm talking, talk to them. See what they have to say about it.
You mentioned your old friend Fedor. He lost on Saturday night to Dan Henderson, and you said in the scrum...
It's not like it's not like I hate Fedor or I have this hatred toward Fedor or anything else. It's just the, you and lots of other media people who bought into the myth despite the facts, and calling this guy the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, the #1 heavyweight in the world, when the guys who actually deserved it, the guys, like I always said, that fight in this organization and fight the best in the world 3 times a year, deserve those accolades.
And not to interject, but since we had this sort of famous moment on the Versus set there, I wasn't saying he was the best ever. I was saying he was the best at the time. Obviously, things have changed.
Which was insane. And
matter of opinion, right?
No, it was insane. It was insane.
Tomato.
Well, I'll go through this list that I put.
You brought a prop today.
Well, in 2003, Fedor fought Yuji Nagata, a pro wrestler who was 0-1 in MMA. Okay. In 2005, he fought, somebody threw that in there, I won't use that, but Wagner Martins, who would later go on to lose by submission to Butterbean. Okay. In 2006, he fought middleweight Matt Lindland. Also in 2006, he fought Mark Hunt and part of Mark Hunt's 6-fight losing streak. Okay. Then in 2007, he fought Hongman Choi, who had one MMA win over TV personality Bobby Oligan, who I don't know who that is, but Choi's only other MMA win was against Jose Canseco. Now, we'll go into, then he beat Andrei Arlovsky and Tim Sylvia.
Which are respected wins. In hindsight, maybe they're not doing well right now, but they were coming off the UFC. Sylvia had just fought for the interim title and then fought Fedor.
Then he beat
Nothing?
Then he beat Brett Rogers. He beat Brett Rogers and lost.
Just knocked out Arlovsky. Listen, the point is, I'm not here to...
Just knocked out Arlovsky, exactly. And then went on to beat Fabricio Verdum.
Lost to Verdum.
I mean, lost to Verdum, lost to Silva, and lost to Dan Henderson. And, you know, you got these delusional freaks on the internet and on, you know, coming on my Twitter and saying, oh, you disrespect the greatest fighter of all. Listen, you guys have been living the myth too long. And if you can't wake up and at least read the facts and what the facts are, these are the same people that believe that a guy is pulling the sun in a chariot over the earth. Okay, it's over, man. Stop, give it up. The guy. It's not that I don't like Fedor, but there are guys out here who deserve the credit that you guys were trying to build up and give this guy. He was so fun for you guys because he wasn't in the UFC, which I think was his big downfall too. You know, when all this hype was going on, come in and fight the best in the world and we'll find out. But they refused to do that. No matter what offer was made to these guys and how much money he was offered, he refused to come into the UFC and fight the best.
So he just lost his third straight in a row. Is he done in Strikeforce?
I don't know. You guys want to see him fight again? Should I get him a welterweight to fight next? Would that excite you guys? Maybe I'll get a good welterweight in Strikeforce to fight him now.
I take that as a yes. Dan Henderson just beat him. He's a free agent. Is he going to come back to the UFC?
I like Henderson. I've always liked Henderson. The last thing that happened with Henderson is we couldn't come to terms. We couldn't come to a deal. He wanted more money than I thought he should get, and he decided to do other things. But Henderson and I have a good relationship, and we'll see what we can do this time. We'll see if Dan and I can figure something out.
You're interested?
Yeah, I respect Dan Henderson. He's a tough dude, man. You know, he's got knockout power with both hands, great wrestling, and he's one of those guys that will fight anybody.
All right, and final question. We've taken up a lot of your time here. Just wondering what you think about women's MMA now that it's under Zuffa because of Strikeforce. Miesha Tate had that big win. Have you at least maybe changed your stance? And you've never said that women's MMA is bad or anything, or that not enough fighters. What do you think now that it's kind of under your radar, so to speak?
My stance is exactly the same. It is what it is. It's I like Miesha Tate. I like that she called me out before and said, oh, you know, I'll show you what women's MMA is, and then went out and delivered and won the fight. But the facts are the facts. It is what it is. You can do some cool one-off fights maybe here or there, but there's not enough good women out there to create a competitive division.
So it doesn't have a future, for at least for now.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
By the way, Philly shirt, Boston guy.
Yeah, well, I'm a Victorino fan. So.
Oh, that's right. Is he on the back of that?
No, but wearing this in honor of Victorino.
All right, fair enough. UFC 133 goes down this Saturday night live from the Wells Fargo Center here in Philadelphia. Vitor Belfort going up against Yoshihiro Akiyama, and Tito Ortiz versus Sugar Rashad Evans. Thank you for the time, Dana, and thanks for bringing the prop.
Pleasure.